Thank you, Dennis. Good evening. We'll try that again. Thank you, Dennis. Good evening. All right, we got a live audience here. I'm told that I the last thing standing between you and your dinner. And just before I came over, I said to Joe, I called Joe Biden. I said, Joe, what should I talk about tonight? He said, talk for the first half hour about Delaware. And on behalf of my fellow senators and Susan Collins from Maine and Chris Dodd from Connecticut and John McCain from Arizona, we welcome you here to our nation's capital. You've come literally to the loveliest week of the year. Maybe this made the top 10, it's the top 10 day, maybe the most beautiful day of the year. So whoever did your scheduling, you did a good job. I started asking people when I got here to one of the receptionists upstairs, I said, what should I talk about? And my staff was good enough to prepare remarks for me, but I said, different people like, what should I talk about? And somebody said, just give us some good news. Just give us some good news. And I went from one person, I ran into Kurt Well, and I said, Kurt, what should I talk about? He said, give him some good news. I sat down at our table here next to the chaplain from the House of Representatives, and I said, well, what should I talk about? He said, give him some good news. And like that's in chaplain speak, New Testament. That's like so. I was coming down the elevator, and from upstairs and coming down here to the dinner, and I said to the folks in the elevators, a bunch of them from all over the country, I said, what should I talk about? And they said, well, give us some good news. Really, like one after the other kept saying the same thing. And as we got off the elevator, I said to this one guy, I said, why do you suppose everybody keeps saying, give us some good news? And they said, well, they know there's not much, so it'll be a short speech. So I'm going to give you some good news. And it might be a little bit longer than you expect, but not that much longer. First of all, let me just say, when we gathered here a year ago at this place, our nation was struggling through the worst recession since the Great Depression. Think about this. A year ago, our economy was losing 600,000 jobs a month. Gross domestic product was actually dropping by about 6%. Our nation's banking system was kind of frozen up. You never have a car that the oil went out of the engine and your car engine just kind of seized up. That's what happened. And banks were unable to make loans to people to buy homes or buy cars or send their kids to school. Foreclosures were rising. General Motors, Ford, Chrysler were threatened with bankruptcy. 2 of them actually ended up in bankruptcy. Everything that should have been up was down, and everything that should have been down was up. It was a tough time for our country. And we're gathered here a year later, and as Ronald Reagan used to say, not everything is perfect, I know, but as Ronald Reagan used to say, it's morning in America, and it's certainly springtime in America. And we have a lot to be thankful for. A lot of this is a resilient country, and a lot of you have helped bring us through it. But today, last month, 600,000 people didn't lose their jobs. We actually added about 125,000 jobs across the country. And last month, last quarter, the gross domestic product of our country didn't go down by 6%. It actually went up by 6%. And all those banks that people thought were just throwing money to or giving money away to, we bought their preferred stock. They've had to pay us interest. And they're paying us, buying back the preferred stock. They're paying interest on all of it. And you're going to hear the term warrants in the months to come, but we actually exercise something called warrants that enable us to make literally billions of dollars off of the money that we've invested in the banks that are now paying us back with interest. Ford Motor Company announced this week record earnings, $2 billion in profit for the quarter. General Motors and Chrysler, which went into bankruptcy, are out of bankruptcy. Both of them expect to either break even or make money this year. General Motors repaid all the money they owed to the TARP, Troubled Asset Fund, paid it all last week. Last month, J.D. Powers and Associates, who evaluates quality and reliability in the products that we buy, 7 out of the top 10 vehicles sold in America are made in America by Americans. And we still have our share of problems. We got them here at home. Stenny mentioned some of them. We got them around the world, in the Middle East and Iran and all those folks around the world that are trying to, cybersecurity, trying to hack their way into our secret databases, to steal our military secrets, to steal our intellectual property rights, and so we know it's bad. But we got a lot to be thankful for overseas. I just came back a couple of weeks ago from Afghanistan. I had the privilege of leading a congressional delegation, 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats. Imagine a bipartisan congressional delegation that went into it. And I might also say that today the Democrats and Republicans decided to not point fingers at each other as we try to clean up Wall Street and make sure that doesn't happen to us again. We're actually joining hands, not pointing fingers at each other, but actually joining hands and saying we're going to work this out together. I just want to close with a word on Afghanistan, if I could. How many of you ever served in the military? Let's put our hands together for those guys and gals.